ask a question, I think, is in the Q&A box. So if you look at the bottom of your screen, there will be a box that says Q&A. That way we won't miss anything in the chat, and it will highlight for us as well. So that's that. We are going to be starting very shortly. We'll be starting in about a minute, or sorry, about 3 minutes. It will give us enough time to, send out the link to all our students and parents as well, who are probably by this point fed up of all the daily messages that they are getting. Mufti Hilal,
it depends on how many groups they're on with you.
That's true. How many times do you get the message, Mufti?
I just had a look. I'm on 18 groups with you.
So do you get? I'm sure you don't get the same message 18 times. Mufti?
I get about, I think, 3 or 4 times.
The same message?
One from you, then FES Academy, then FEP, okay. Cycling, Fiqh.
Oh, interesting. That's so you're even more blessed than Sheikh in that sense.
100%.
And the question is, how many of those do you end up attending as a result of these messages?
No, I found the, Mark has unread. No, not Mark has unread, the other one. Mark has read. I found that button.
Oh, is it? I didn't know about that.
Yeah. There's a feature. Mark has read.
That's
Mark
interesting,
has seen,
Jake.
or something like that. Wa alaikum salam, Julia. How are you doing?
So we're just sending out this message now, inshallah, to our staff, parents, and everyone else. And hopefully we could start in the next few minutes, inshallah. And we're not going to take any questions now because we don't want anyone to miss out on any of these questions and points, inshallah.
Yeah, so the presentation will still be, I think, child-friendly.
Fantastic. I like that. Yep.
Open to Q&A as well.
Absolutely. And just to reiterate this, that our lessons are mainly aimed at our students and parents. So we have to try our best to simplify them as much as possible. There are obviously so many different virtual online classes going on for adults, but our main objective is to try and cater for our students, inshallah. Okay, so inshallah, for those who are joining us now, we'll be starting in the next couple of minutes, just waiting for people to log on via Zoom or YouTube, whichever one is easier for everyone, that's fine. And then we will be starting, inshallah. And also, today's fiqh lesson is contextualized, so it's aimed at the fiqh of fasting or the fiqh of Ramadan or anything associated with Ramadan, including your questions that have been coming forward regarding Taraweeh, as in the virtual Taraweeh and how it's supposed to be done. Also, Mufti Hilal will go through a presentation. Midway, if you have any questions, do put them down in the Q&A. And whenever we can, whenever we have small breaks in between, we will answer those questions, inshallah. Okay, so we're just going to wait another minute, Mufti Hilal, and then we are ready to start, inshallah. Hussein Tahir, Mufti Hilal, I think he's one of your students from Changhar, is saying that I'm excited for today's fiqh lesson. So this is Hussein saying, I'm excited for today's fiqh lesson. I hope I got that right, Hussein.
Can you have Hussein come on video and say that? I'm only joking.
But Hussein was there on the video for our Islamic studies lesson on Wednesday when we were doing a lesson on angels.
That's good.
And we had to mix sugar inside water. So everyone had their glass of water and mixing the sugar inside it. And we were looking at angels, even though that we can't see them, doesn't necessarily mean that they do not exist. So Hussein did quite well in his mixing of the sugar. So well done, Hussein. Jueria saying that session was really fun. Don't worry, Jueria, we're gonna give you food anyway. You don't need to praise our sessions. Okay.
Is that you typing? Are you Jueria?
No, Jueria is Jueria. She's doing it. She's doing it from her room, because if we sit close by on different devices, then there's this kind of the echo and all that. So Julia does it from her room.
Yeah. A good way of banishing her.
Yep. Okay, I think we'll give it one last minute and we will, inshallah, begin.
Inshallah.
So as I mentioned in our previous lesson, but if you were not there for the previous lesson, if you have any questions related to the fiqh of fasting, Ramadan, or anything to do with Ramadan, could be Taraweeh or anything like that, please write them down. Okay. It may so happen that during Mufti's presentation that he may already answer your question. Okay, so then you can cross that question out, or you can write down the answer if you're writing in your exercise books, which would be a good way for you to remember. If you have any questions, write them down somewhere down the line, type them up as well, and we will begin to answer them. I think, Mufti, we've given enough time to begin. I think let's start our session because we don't have too much time, and it's a very important session today and is very relevant as well. Okay, Mufti Hilal, as you're putting that up, did you see my PowerPoint skills where I added the daughter in one of the points?
Oh, no, I didn't see that. I didn't notice it.
Oh, there you go. That means it worked
well.
Did
you put a hijab on the boy?
No, I found a girl in one of the other ones and I kind of got rid of the background and copied and pasted her, got rid of the mom and put her behind.
I don't know. That's the best way to do this.
Yeah.
Just trying to open my chat up onto this. There we go.
So as I mentioned, if you have a question, try and use the Q&A function because it's more easier for us to see as well. With chat, sometimes when you're chatting to each other, sometimes questions can get hidden away. So try and use the Q&A. Over to you, Mufti Hilal. What do you need to teach us about the fiqh of Ramadan?
So I have my presentation open today. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam.
الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Okay, so today's session is going to be in regards to Ramadan. So we've got two parts to the presentation. The first part is going to be a brief introduction into Ramadan and the purpose behind the fiqh, and then we'll jump straight into the fiqh. So we'll match them both together, inshallah. So going straight into Ramadan and straight into our presentation. This is the most important verse. Everyone have a look at this verse and have a read. O you who believe, fasting is prescribed for you as it was prescribed for those before you, that you may become righteous. So this is the most important verse, one of the most important verses in regards to fasting and in regards to the month of Ramadan. So fasting is an act of worship, and fasting literally means to abstain and hold yourself back from something. And here we're being told by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that it's not just us, the believers and the followers of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam who have had to fast, but also other nations and prophets and people that had come way before. They also had to fast as well. It might not have been the same. It might not have been Ramadan. It might not have been 29, 30 days, but some way, in some form, in some manner, they did have to fast. Now, the first task for you guys, have a look at this. This is the verse. O you who believe. Can you find the objective of fasting in this verse? So using the verse itself, what is the purpose and objective of fasting? Rizza will excuse you for coming late. You are excused. So what is the objective? Again, you can use the chat on Zoom or you can use the chat on YouTube. Read this verse. Inside the verse itself, there's a clue and there's something that indicates what the objective and the purpose of fasting is. Why do we fast? What do we want to gain? What is the purpose behind it? How might, if we bring our question matrix into it, how might a person benefit from becoming by fasting? Okay, Juwaria says to gain patience. Where did you get that from the verse, Juwaria? May I ask you? Zahra says to become righteous. Anybody else? We're looking for the objective of fasting in the actual verse that has been mentioned in the Quran. I mean righteous.
Also, Mufti, you might want to ask, what is meant by objective?
Oh, that's a good question. What is meant by objective? What is the objective of me writing the word objective? So what is the purpose? What is the end result and the end goal? So Zahra has said to become righteous. Yeah, so if we look at the end of the verse, it says, "O you who believe, fasting is prescribed for you as it was prescribed for those before you, that you may become righteous."
And
Now,
on that point, Mufti Hilal,
yes.
the philosopher MMA has said to attain taqwa.
Subhanallah. Attain taqwa, is that a translation of you may become righteous? I like that.
I think it looks like it, yeah.
Yep. So if we look at the next slide, what does this mean to you now? So we've got all these words that we've thrown around. So Zahra said and Juwairiya said righteousness. The philosopher MMA said to gain taqwa. Hussein said fasting is a must, and if you do it, you will become righteous. Okay, but for me, righteous is a very big word, has a lot of letters in there, and I'm not very well educated. So can someone please explain to me what it means by becoming righteous, or what it means to attain taqwa? What does this mean? What are these words that we're throwing around? What does it mean to you to become righteous? Imagine I've just migrated from outer space into this world of yours. I don't know your language very well. I'm still learning. So what is righteous? Zahra says, become right on the straight path, as it literally says in the word. Okay, right, use. So to become right, does that mean not to become left? What do you mean by becoming right? How it says to become good. Become correct. Is that as opposed to incorrect, Zahra? So if I make a mistake in an exam, have I become unrighteous? And if I get 100% in an exam, you're confusing me. I've confused you so much that you've even written, you're confusing me. You are doing right things in your religion, Islam. Okay, so we've got some good suggestions coming through. Just waiting for the YouTube to see if anything comes through on YouTube.
So on YouTube, Sheikh, there's to become conscious of Allah. That's from the philosopher MMA.
MMA. Yes, that just came in now as well on mine. To become conscious of Allah. Is your YouTube faster than mine?
It might be, Sheikh, might be.
So to become conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Now what we're going to do is look at the next slide, and inshallah this will start unpacking all of this. But before we go on, Fiza and Ibrahim say, become a person who is justice. And Zahra agrees with you, by the way, Fiza and Ibrahim. So you have one like there. So what I've done is I've had a look at a few different translations of the Quran. And if you actually look at the translations, they have different ways of understanding what it means by becoming righteous. If you look at the first one, so the part in bold is the name of the translator, or where it's been translated. That you may become righteous, that's the one I borrowed. Then number 2, you have that you may ward off evil. So now this is opening up our understanding of righteous. Yusuf Ali says that you may learn self-restraint. I like this one, self-restraint. And Muhammad Sarwar, that you may have fear of God. And finally, Muhsin Khan, that you may become al-muttaqoon, like the philosopher said, to attain taqwa. So let's look at all of this together now. Righteousness means all of these things. None of them are wrong. They're all a different way of explaining what it means to be righteous. And I've got some pictures to explain this concept. But before we go into the pictures, let's just have a look at these words. So the second one, warding off evil. So to do evil, to do bad, your righteousness is going to push away that evil. It's like imagine you're in this really strong, but you know there's that game that people play. I don't know what it's called. Can someone remind me? Zahra or Hussein. You put yourself in a ball and you roll around basically. It's like this massive ball that you put yourself inside. and then you just roll around whilst you're still inside the bowl. Any idea? Anyone played that before? Swash bubble ball. Okay. I had something else in mind, something beginning with a Z, I think.
Zubble?
Anyway, sorry?
Zubble.
Zubble. No, not quite.
Yep. Okay, I just went from bubble and put a Z there instead. Yeah.
Yeah, there's something. Anyway, we'll get back to that another day. So this ball, imagine that as your protective shield of righteousness, inflatable ball. That's right. And you're inside it. And there's evil coming your way and the opportunity to do something wrong. And this bubble around you is now pushing away anything that comes in your direction. Another way of looking at it is what Yusuf Ali said, self-restraint. So the bubble isn't there, but you yourself have the ability to hold yourself back. So you're not pushing the evil away, you're actually tying yourself up and you're pulling yourself away from the evil and from the bad situation. And then if you look at Muhammad Sarwar, he actually goes on to, why are we doing this? A person will only exercise self-restraint and push away evil out of fear of God. And finally, these are the muttaqun. So all of these in essence are correct. That is the purpose of fasting. And we're going to have a look at how fasting gets you there. I'm going to fly through this section because we want to get to the fiqh, don't we? That's the juicy part. So how does fasting achieve this? Now, in Ramadan, this is the most important thing. No more eating, no more drinking from dawn at the start of Fajr time, all the way up to sunset. No eating and no drinking during that time. Now, what is the purpose? What is the objective? Why are we being told not to eat and drink? What do you guys think? How is this going to help me attain righteousness? How am I going to ward off evil or exercise self-restraint or have fear of Allah if I don't eat and drink? Am I not just starving myself and remaining hungry? Am I not oppressing myself? Shaitan is locked up. Okay, but how does that help my eating and drinking? Isn't this self-oppression? You're starving yourself. Allah has given you so many things that you can eat and drink, but instead of eating and drinking, you're staying away. Patience. What do you mean by patience, Julia? So we see how the poor people feel. Okay, that's one wisdom behind fasting. We get to relate to other people, poor people. Fiza Ibrahim, self-discipline. It teaches you self-discipline. You're learning to become patient. I can't eat right now. I have to wait till my Lord, my Creator allows me to eat. Only then I can eat and drink. Hussein says, we do not eat or drink to remind ourselves of the poor who starve all day. Good. That's another good, positive wisdom. Muhammad Isagji. Oh, this must be Muhammad Yusuf Isagji. You become more and more patient. Assalamu alaikum. Muhammad Yusuf, Umar, Hassan, whichever one you are. You become more and more patient. How do you become more patient? Muhammad Yusuf, Umar. Zahra says, because Allah says so, so it must be good. I like that. That's just a straightforward answer. Allah said it, finished. Why am I going to bother thinking about it anymore? Exercising full belief. Case closed. Well done, Zahra. That is right. Case closed. Okay, have a look at this slide. This little person on the left has a little monster inside him. Now, every single person has a little monster inside them. The philosopher said, by sacrificing our desires, we can concentrate solely on ibadah. That is correct as well. So we're squashing our desires and we're going to focus and direct it away to something else. Then Muhammad Umar, inshallah. Okay, so every person walking around with their hands in their pockets has a little monster inside them. Now, the job of this monster, as you can see in picture 2, is to whisper in your ear. And do you think this monster is going to be whispering good things or bad things? Is it going to be telling you to pray salah, or is it going to be telling you to do things that you shouldn't be doing? Bad things, says Haris. Peter said, what made you think that Allah has provided it for you and without him you can't have food or water? So it helps you. Bad things, right? So this little monster that you have inside your stomach that's eating away and whispering into your ear is telling you to do bad things until eventually look
Mufti
at
Hilal?
Yes. Sorry.
I think the monster makes it worse by walking right to your ear with a fork in his hand. Is he trying to send a message or trying to make you think of fork as a knife and fork to eat?
That's true, actually, because if the person is fasting, it might be telling them that, look, I've got a fork here. Well, don't you want to have some food? It's tempting you. So yeah, the monster's objective is to do bad things, right? That's right, Muhammad Isakji. Haram, to do things that aren't allowed for you to do. And then eventually, number 3, if you listen to the monster, this is what you end up doing. You find somebody's wallet, you find somebody's bag that has some money inside it, and when they're not looking, you sneak your hand in and you take something that doesn't belong to you. Or you're in a shop, nobody's looking, you pick something up off the shelf and you put it into your pocket and you walk out. So anything that's bad, that's being directed to you by the monster. Now this last part with the 3 monsters, this is the important part for fasting and Ramadan. If you listen to your monster and you do what it says and you steal something from the bag, this little monster that you have actually starts to grow and becomes stronger. And then on another occasion, the monster will whisper to you again in your ear and tell you to do something else that's bad. And again, if you listen to it, the monster is now going to become even more stronger and even more bigger. Okay, it is your nafs, exactly, Hussein Tahir. It is your nafs. That is the monster inside you. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And the more you listen to this little evil monster inside you, the harder it becomes to turn away from it. The harder it becomes, because you guys are now becoming close friends. So the more you listen to it, the more it becomes difficult for you to stop listening. Now think about the reverse. Imagine the monster is quite big. What happens if you don't listen to the monster? So it whispers in your ear and it says, there's a bag over there with some money inside it. Why don't you go and take some of the money out of that bag? Nobody's looking. What do you think is going to happen to that monster if you don't listen to it and you exercise self-control and restraint? What do you guys think? Is it going to get bigger? It's going to run away. I like that. That's one option. It might run away from you. If it doesn't run away, what else could happen to it? Zahra? Fiza? It's going to get bigger. If you don't listen to it, are you sure? If you don't listen to it. Angry. Muhammad, Umar, and Hassan are saying it will become angry. That's right. It will also become angry. It'll run away and it'll start to become smaller and smaller and smaller. But the more you exercise self-control and restraint, this monster is actually going to get smaller and weaker and weaker and weaker. And like Zahra just said, it will throw a tantrum, eventually disappear. And like Juwaria said, it's going to become smaller. So that's what fasting is about. Fasting is about finding this little monster inside us and teaching ourselves that we're no longer going to listen to this monster and what it says. And eventually we're going to put it away in a box and lock it up for eternity, inshallah ta'ala. Okay, now why eating and drinking? Why do you think it's eating and drinking that Allah has told us not to do?
Mufti Hilal, your voice is cutting slightly.
Oh, sorry.
So you might want to.
Is it better now, Sheikh?
Yeah, carry on, Mufti Hilal, please. Thank you.
Yep. So why is it eating and drinking? Of all the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have told us to not do, why eating and drinking? Why didn't he say, stop stealing in Ramadan, or stop talking bad about other people, or stop disrespecting elderly people and parents? Why eating and drinking of all the things? What do you think? Some people don't have food. Okay, that might be one reason. Since Allah is merciful, He wants to give us something easy. Trust me, for me, taking away from eating and drinking is not easy. I love food and I love eating. So Ramadan is like extremely challenging. We do not eat or drink to remind ourselves of the poor. Okay, that's one benefit, helps remind us of the poor. because it's a worse punishment. I love food too. Nice. Anybody else have some suggestions? Allah has provided it, and without Him, you cannot have anything. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Aisha Arshad or Fiza and Ibrahim are saying that Allah is teaching you that I am providing you this. And if I take it away from you, then you won't be able to have it. The philosopher says, by experiencing what the poor experience. Muhammad Isagji, practice patience and stay away from evil. Okay, so let's put it this way. Eating and drinking, is that something that you're allowed to do on a normal day? Are you allowed to eat and drink on a normal day? Yes. Zahra says, unless you focus instead of going to the fridge every 10 seconds. Zahra, I think you need to put a padlock on your fridge. On a normal day. Okay, so on a normal day, you're allowed to eat and drink. So this is the interesting part. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the month of Ramadan, He's not telling you to stay away from the bad things. That's a given. He's telling you to stay away from the good things that you are allowed on a normal day. Okay? So you're not going to train yourself to stay away from bad things in Ramadan. You're training yourself to stay away from good things that are allowed for you. So you're allowed to eat normally. You're allowed to drink. But for 30 days, you're going to train yourself that, look, even though I'm so thirsty, even though it's so hot, I might be in Qatar and it might be like 40 degrees and it's extremely hot and all I want is a bit of water to get through my day. But you teach yourself and you train yourself that, look, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told me I'm not allowed to eat and drink today. So then you control yourself and you control that little monster inside you that's telling you to eat and drink, and you hold yourself back and you exercise self-restraint. So for 29 and 30 days, virtual shaitan trying to cut off the Mufti. It might be in the month of Ramadan, but shaitan's tied up, right? So it can't be. So if for 30 days you can stay away from things
maybe via Zoom, Sheikh.
So that means shaitan still has access online then. Maybe it must be the little shayateen that are still around. Okay, so if you can for 29 and 30 days stay away from something that is normally allowed for you, and that's the training that you're going through, then inshallah, by the end of those 30 days, you will not even look at something which is not allowed for you in the first place, because you've managed to control yourself in those things that are good and permissible. So after 30 days of training, you're not even going to go as far as going to something that's impermissible. Does that make sense? If you understand that, give me a yes. If not, you can give me a no. So we're actually going one level above. We're not even staying away from this bad. We're going and staying away from bad and even what's good. And if we can get to that level, then after Ramadan, inshallah, we can stay away from everything that's bad. That should be even more easier for us. So that's how self-restraint, righteousness, and all of that comes in. So everything that we said at the beginning, self-restraint, warding off evil, becoming righteous. And why do we do all of this? Because of fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and at the end to become al-muttaqun. So that was the conclusion of the verse. كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامُ كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. So that's just a brief introduction into why we fast, objective behind it, the purpose, to control ourselves, teach us self-discipline, stay away from things, so that when Ramadan comes to an end, our life is totally changed and we have trained ourselves to be able to stay away from all things bad and evil that we shouldn't be doing. Okay, now onto the fiqh side of things. We're not allowed to eat and drink. What does that mean to you? What is eating and drinking? Because I know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam have told me in Ramadan, no eating and no drinking. And what does that mean though? It seems like a very simple thing, but what does that mean? To not eat and drink, what does that mean? It's not a trick question. The trick question will come next, don't worry.
Does it mean you can't put any solids or liquids in your mouth?
Oh, possibly. Would you consider that to be eating? If you,
Well,
for example, oh,
if it goes past and down your throat, at that point, once it passes the throat, does it then become eating and drinking?
what if it's a stone?
Good point. Yeah.
What if it's a stone? Am I going to consider it swallowing a stone as eating? It means you restrain yourself from edible things. Okay. Zahra, what about eating a stone? Would you consider that to be eating? No. So you guys wouldn't consider that eating. So that means I can eat stones in Ramadan. Found a solution. If I'm hungry, no, just a small stone so you won't choke. Really small. What about eating sand? That means eating sand should be okay. It's not edible, but we'll make it edible. Okay, so that's why we have a bit of a problem. We need to now define what is eating and what is drinking. So if we see here, we have the Mitchells on the right-hand side, cycling, and a fly lands on the person's nose. Okay. This cyclist is quite lucky because the fly landed on his nose. Otherwise, what can happen is if it goes a little bit lower, it actually end up going into the cyclist's mouth, which can happen, and to be honest, has happened. Okay. Now imagine if that fly went into the cyclist's mouth. Are you going to consider that to be eating? Do you think that person's fast is broken? So some comments online say, doesn't give you any nutrition. It was not on purpose. Okay, so it was an accident. Okay, that gives me another point to think about. What about things that are done by accident?
On the point of it not being nutritious, I'm sure there's some protein in the fly.
Jueria says, ew. Your comment. There might be, you never know. You know, there's a hadith of the wing of a fly has cure inside and shifa. Okay, what about swallowing a stone? Or in the case of the person on the left-hand side, they're sitting in bed, in a hospital bed, they're not very well, they're quite sick, and they've got all these fluids that are going into their body, giving them lots of nourishment. Is that eating and drinking? What if it gives you so much energy that after 10 minutes, they jump out of bed and start jumping around? Would you consider that to be eating and drinking? Does that mean it doesn't break your fast or it does break your fast? Muhammad Isakji says no. Also no from Eliza. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. No, all you guys are saying no. Maybe you can break your fast as you swallowed the stone, which isn't good and it was an accident. Yes, because it has gone down in the throat. Also, flies have some protein in them. There you go. Someone's adopted your madhab, Sheikh. Hussein is saying they have protein inside them. Okay, so this is why the jurists and the scholars had to come up with a framework, because there's so many different ways of looking at this. What about a person who's getting energy and fluids into their body through their veins? Are we going to say that's counted as eating and drinking? Or if a person swallows a fly, are we going to consider that to be eating and drinking? What if something happened by accident? What if you forgot you were fasting? So there's so many questions that can come about. Because of all these different questions, we need to create some sort of framework. And that framework we're going to use, and any scenario that we have, we're going to throw it at the framework. And if it agrees, it's like our machine that we discussed about before, where you have all of these different scenarios being put into the machine, and at the end of it, you have all the conclusion. So now we need to have a look at what is the framework that we're going to work by. Okay, so now this is where you need to pay super fine attention, because there's two slides that are extremely important. If you understood that, you should be able to understand nearly every scenario that I throw at you. And it's very simple, inshallah ta'ala. Okay. Point number one. There needs to be the item that is going into your body. So we're looking at things that go into your body and determining whether they break your fast or not. So the item that goes into your body has to, in order for your fast to break, has to either go in through one of these valid entry points. Okay, so it needs to either go in through the mouth, or it needs to go in through the nose, or just say you have a puncture in your body and you have a little hole, or you have a little cut that's been made to your body and it goes in through that. So we've got a valid entry point. Nose. What's your question on nose, Juwaria? You know what your nose is, right? So you have 3 points of entry: mouth, nose, or a hole that's been made in a person's body. Now, that's not the only important part. The important part is the second part. It has to reach one of these 3 points. So this is the destination of that item. Okay. How would you break your fast with your nose? I'm about to explain, inshallah ta'ala. So if something enters through your mouth, nose, or there you go, Zahra answered your question if you sniffed water. So you something entered through the mouth, nose, or any other puncture in the body, and it ends up reaching either the throat, the stomach, or your intestine. One of these 3 points: your throat, your stomach, or your intestine. If both of these conditions are fulfilled, then your fast is going to break. The fast is going to break. So that's the framework that we're going to be working with. Now let's use your example that you gave, sniffing water. Will sniffing water break your fast? What do you guys think? So look at this first. Does it go through a valid entry point, sniffing water? Yes, 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 yes. Okay. Does it reach any of these? Throat, stomach, intestine? Yes, yes. Okay. So it enters. Oh, Juwaria doesn't answer. Let me start again. Sniffing water, Juwaria, does it go through? And I want Juwaria to answer this, yeah? Juwaria, does sniffing water, does the water go in through one of these, your mouth, nose, or a hole in your body? Yes, it does. Okay, so the first condition is fulfilled. That's point number 1. Agreed? Now, when you sniff water and it goes through your nose, does it end up in one of these? Throat, stomach, or intestine? Yes, it does. Okay, so in that case, is your fast going to be broken or not, Juwaria? Shahana Khanum from Shayla says yes. Yes, it does. Good. So that's what we're trying. Oh, you understand now. Alhamdulillah. Good. Everyone give Juwaria a round of a mashallah. So that's all we need to work out. Does it go through one of these valid entry points, mouth, nose, and a puncture in the body? And does it end up to the throat, stomach, or intestine? If it does, your fast will break. If it doesn't, your fast will not break. This is a child-friendly version of the fiqh of fasting, by the way. I'll just throw that in as a side point. So now I've got a few other things I'm going to put in your direction. What if I swallowed a stone? And just as another disclaimer, this is working within the framework of Hanafi fiqh. So the Hanafi school of law, this is working within their framework because others might have certain variations. So any examples and principles and framework provided will be working from the Hanafi school framework. Does dust particles entering, the philosopher asked, does dust particles entering through our nose while breathing break fast? We will get to that inshallah ta'ala. We have a slide on that. If you don't mind, we will answer that when it comes inshallah ta'ala. Okay, so let's quickly, a stone placed into your mouth and you happen to swallow it. Zahra said the stone slides down the throat and down. Okay, yes, because it enters the throat. Okay, good. Anyone else want to add? Anyone disagree? You would break your fast? Yes, it goes down the throat. Okay, the stone example is a nice one. It enters the mouth, one of our valid entry points, and it leads to the throat, the stomach, and the intestine. Well, at least the throat anyway. Okay, so that means it's going to break your fast. Now remember, anything that goes through your mouth and nose is most likely going to reach your throat anyway. So automatically, those two will definitely break your fast. The puncture is the important one. Okay, let me do another example. What about saliva in your mouth? So you have saliva in your mouth. What do you think about that? It starts from the mouth. What if you swallow some saliva? What do you guys think? Muhammad is actually no. Hassan says no. Saliva doesn't break, or the stone doesn't break. It's like your own water. No. Why are you guys saying no? But the principle says yes. It's going through my mouth and down my throat. Zahra says yes. Zahra is a firm believer in the principle. Agree with me, guys, she said. Juwairi says you need to have saliva. So what about saliva in your mouth? Saqib. Is that Saqib or Saqib? Saqib says no. It does not break. But why? Saliva, Hussein says, saliva keeps your body working, so no, without it, we would die. You need it, says Juwaria. Zahra says, yeah, but you swallowed it. Exactly. Zahra's like very usuli. She's sticking to her framework. Saliva is your own body. Okay, yeah. So there are, even though this is the framework, there are going to have to be certain exceptions, Zahra. Otherwise, how would you ever go by your day without swallowing any saliva? It's going to be nearly impossible. So there are going to have to be certain exceptions. Saliva is one of them. And if you want to go on more of a bit more of a ew part of a discussion, we can say mucus, phlegm. If you happen to get some in your mouth and you swallowed it, that also won't break the fast because it's already originated from your body itself. Ear drops and eye drops. So somebody wears contact lenses, they want to put some solution on the contact lens, or maybe they have an eye drop and they want to drop some eye drops into their eyes. What do you guys think? Eye drops break or no? If you're on YouTube, just write the example I'm giving, like eye drop, and then your answer, just so that I know which one you're answering. Otherwise, if there's a bit of a delay, sometimes I can get a bit confused. Someone said, dry your mouth with a hairdryer. Zahra, please, under the guidance of your and the safety of your guardians, you might want to try it out and let us know how it goes next week, inshallah ta'ala. Okay, please don't. I was only joking. Okay, what about what example did I give right now? Eye drops. Who's going to eye drops? Answer my eye drops. Do eye drops break my fast? I have pain in my eye and I need to put some solution in my eye. Juwaria says no. Zahra says no, as you don't swallow it. Fiza, Ibrahim, no, no, no. And what's the reason? What do you guys think? It doesn't go through a valid entry point, right? No mouth, doesn't go through the nose, and it's not a puncture to the body. So that means it's not going to be a problem. Good, good, good. Okay, so we've covered eye drops. Now, what about perfumes and sprays? What about if okay, forget perfume. Let's say if I've got a rose that smells really nice and I sniff it, what happens? I've got a flower that smells really nice. I put my nose to it and I smell. Shahana, eye drops, no. Shayla says no to eye drops. Good. Well done, Shayla. Sorry, even I'm lost. Which one are we doing right now? Perfume and sprays. So you sniff a flower and you get the nice smell coming into you. What do you guys think? Sniffing a flower. Haris, are you saying yes, it will break? You do not break your fast by smelling, says Zahra. Why not, Zahra? It goes through your nose. Hussein says your fast breaks because particles from the rose go into your body. I like the way there's differences of opinion here. If you had more time, we'd throw around some of these. You won't get hungry by smelling it.
Mufti, I really like Hussein's point there. I think he's really thinking deeply about this.
Which one?
Hussein's point that your fast breaks because particles from the rose go into your nose. Yeah.
Very interesting. Now we have to define what do you mean by particles, because if I see a rose, I don't see any particles transferring from the rose to myself. The Isakji say flower does not break your fast from Muhammad Umar. Muhammad Umar, why not? Shayla says no to perfume and flowers. Okay, let's make a distinction here now. Flowers, remember, flowers do not have, when you, the fragrance of a flower doesn't have any visible physical particle that is transferring its way into your nose and down your throat. So sniffing a flower will not break your fast. But if you were to, for example, spray something in the air, you spray something in the air, immediately you go and you sniff that in. Now you have a spray has physical body, right? A spray has physical particles where you can actually see, you can even feel it. If you put your hand there, you can, if you sniff it, it will go into your nose. So if you have a spray which you spray into the air, and you're not going to do this normally, you spray it into the air and you just go straight forward and you sniff it in, those particles will break your fast. But if it's just, oh, Zahra, that's a very good question. What about polluted air? We're going to discuss the polluted air with the MMA's question, philosopher's question of I'm just trying to find, where was it? Dust particles. Okay, we have some on YouTube. Let's just quickly go through these. I don't think it breaks your fast as it wouldn't fill your stomach. You can't stop smelling. Nice. The philosopher says particles of the flower won't reach to any valid destination. Muhammad, yeah, Isakji's, Muhammad Umar, because you cannot see or touch particles. Okay, so you get the idea here. Not only
Mufti Hilal, can I just throw something in the mix as well?
yeah, you can.
Going back to Hussein's point, just on how we smell and how you might want to talk about that in exceptions. That so I've just Googled it, and it says the way we smell is vaporized odor molecules, chemicals floating in the air reach the nostrils and dissolve in the mucus, which is on the roof of each nostril.
So that means it doesn't go down the nostril. It doesn't go down the nasal cavity. It goes. It gets absorbed into the nostril. Is that what you're thinking?
That's what it looks like. Yes.
Yeah, so that
so it gets to the first point, but then it doesn't fall down into throat, stomach, or intestine. Yeah.
Zahra said that's very scientific words, Sheikh, that you used.
But also at the same time, Sheikh, you know, with the coronavirus.
Yep.
If that goes up your nose, because that's one of the entry points, isn't it? The sinus, and then it goes down to the lungs and stomach and everything else. Would that invalidate your fasting, Sheikh?
I think the coronavirus is slightly too small to take into consideration.
I was just pulling your leg there, Sheikh. But
that made me think. That was quite interesting, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's pause any comments at the moment. Let's just quickly sift through all of this. So remember, it your nostril and your mouth is not sufficient for it to break your fast. It has to have a physical body as well. So you can add that to your notes. So not only does it have to go for a valid entry point, it has to get to a valid destination. I hope that's not too many big words. And it has to have a physical body. So if you have a spray that's been sprayed into the air that has a physical body and it has water and all sorts, and you can actually feel it and you sniff it in, that is physical body is going in through your nostril and to your throat. So that will break your fast. Whereas a flower, a rose, etc., will not break your fast because there's no physical body that is actually making its way into your nostril and down your throat. I hope that helps. If that makes sense, just give me a yes, 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 so I can move on. Otherwise, just give me a no, 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 no. Now, let me just address the discussion that the philosopher mentioned about dust particles, and also Zahra mentioned about pollution. There are going to have to be certain exceptions, and I have a slide on exceptions or exemptions, yeah, which we'll get to. But I'll just add that in here, that certain things have to be exempt. For example, dust particles are exempt. Also, you know, our Mr. Man that had a fly that accidentally went down his throat, even those will be exempt. If you're walking around outside and this fly just happens to come down your throat. Similarly, smoke and dust, let's separate smoke, dust and pollution and bad air, those kind of things are exempt as well, because it's very difficult to avoid, very difficult. You're not going to be able to walk around with your head inside a spacesuit so that you avoid all the dust particles outside in London's fresh, unpolluted air. Okay, so those are some exceptions. let's just go through briefly, because we've not got too much time. I'm going to quickly go through some of the points here for anyone, because these are common issues that come about, and then we'll go through some of these exceptions, so that if anyone has any questions, you can also just type them up and we can go through them as well and try and go through as much as we can in the last 8 minutes. So we've done swallowing, saliva, mucus, eardrops, eye drops, perfumes, and sprays. Brushing your teeth with toothpaste and miswak. Okay. Now again, it's the same thing. If you put toothpaste in your mouth and you're brushing your teeth, and part of that toothpaste makes its way down your throat, then that is going to break your fast. That's why you shouldn't be brushing your teeth with toothpaste in Ramadan. And also, entering things that have a good taste in your mouth is also disliked and discouraged in the month of Ramadan. Alternative, we need to find our miswaks. Like the Prophet ﷺ would use a miswak, and we need to revive the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ would actually use his miswak regularly when he's performing wudu. He would use it when he's coming into the house, when he's going to speak to somebody, so many times throughout the day, not just morning and evening. Continuously throughout the day, the Prophet ﷺ would use a miswak for his oral hygiene and cleanliness of his blessed mouth. So using things like toothpaste, if you swallow it, it's going to break your fast because it went down through your mouth, down your throat, and we've covered that those two stages break your fast. Vomiting, a common question that comes up. Vomiting doesn't actually come into your body, actually comes out of your body. So technically, Zahra is going to say, but it doesn't fit my framework, so it shouldn't break my fast. You are correct halfway, Zahra. But the other half is, vomiting is one of those things that the Prophet ﷺ has told us it will break your fast. Okay. Now there's a bit of a detail here, and that is, vomiting only breaks your fast if you made yourself vomit by purpose. Remember that. If you made yourself vomit by purpose, I don't know why you put your fingers down your throat, or you had a really bad stomach and you just, one of those days where you just feel like vomiting everything out, you've got something that you shouldn't have been eating. So then if you intentionally force yourself to vomit and you make yourself vomit, number one. Condition number two, and it's a mouthful, meaning it's not just a small amount that comes up, but it's such an amount that you're unable to contain it in your mouth and it falls out of your mouth, okay, everywhere. That will be breaking your fast. So if you're just feeling unwell and you just happen to vomit because you're feeling unwell, that's not going to break your fast. With a fast, is very particular. If you force yourself to vomit intentionally and it's a mouthful, only then will vomiting break your fast. Another thing, sometimes people, you have your suhoor meal before dawn. So you're eating and you're eating and you're eating, and just say Fajr time starts at 4 o'clock, for example, and you're eating, it's 4:05, and then you look at the time and you realize, oh no, it's actually past time and the fasting time has already started. Even in such a case, your fast will break because you have intentionally eaten during a fast. Similarly, if you opened your fast too early, let's say Maghrib's at 8 o'clock, and at 10 to 8, you sat down, you started eating, that will also break your fast. So in these cases where you break your fast, you will have to make up for one fast afterwards. Asthma inhaler. Now again, coming from a Hanafi Fiqh perspective, the scientific research which has been done by certain doctors and scholars shows that there's a large percentage of the content of the asthma inhaler which actually makes its way down your throat and into your stomach. Though there is a percentage that's meant to go to your lungs, especially when it hits the back of your throat, it solidifies and that makes its way down into your stomach. So that will also, taking an asthma inhaler will actually break your fast. What to do? So those that are able to, you try and take your inhaler before dawn and after sunset where possible. And if that's, you try as much as you can to avoid using the inhaler. If you feel like you have to and you're not able to continue your day without taking the inhaler, it's going to impact your health severely, then you need to take your inhaler. But that will, from the Hanafi perspective, break your fast, and that will require you to make one up afterwards. Something like a blood test is taking blood out your body, that will not break your fast. Though if you can avoid it during Ramadan, try to, because it might require you to, it might make you weak, and then you might have to take some liquids to give you some energy. So it should be avoided, because if you take those liquids, you're going to have to break your fast. Nasal sprays are a common one. So again, nasal sprays that have a physical body where there's actual spray coming out, that if you sniff that, that's going to go into through your nose, into your lungs, through your nose, down your throat, that's going to break your fast. Vicks Vaporub. If you just open the Vaporub and you just sniff the Vaporub in itself, that won't break your fast. But if you were to put the Vaporub into a bowl of boiling water and inhale the steam, that steam is going to break your fast. Now, remember, when it comes to smoke and steam, if you intentionally inhale something, so just say somebody's cooking and there's steam, obviously, because they're cooking, and that happens to go down your mouth and your nose, that won't break your fast. But if you intentionally put your head over the pot and you sniff in and you take in all the good steam with all the good flavor and spices, that is going to break your fast. Some exemptions and exceptions. Does experiencing any taste in our mouth break your fast? Experiencing taste in itself won't break your fast, philosopher MMA, but you need to make sure that you spit it out. So spit out. It's makruh, it's disliked to taste things during the month of Ramadan while you are fasting. So that's disliked, and you should spit it out. There's a question here. Some people ask, when I do wudu and I put water in my mouth and I spit out, but obviously there's going to be some level of water that's going to remain. Again, that's unavoidable. So because that's unavoidable, that has been exempted as well. But you need to try your best to spit out as much water as you can. Exemptions include forgetting. So just say you totally forgot you're fasting. You wake up in the morning, really thirsty, a bottle of water next to you, and you start drinking the entire bottle, and you forgot that you were fasting. Your fast will not break. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forgiven people who do things forgetfully. If you forgot you were fasting. Now remember, this is different to an accident. So just say you're doing wudu and you put water in your mouth and you end up swallowing the water by accident. Some water goes down your throat by accident. That will break your fast and require you to make up another fast. So that will break your fast. However, if you drank water by forgetting, not accident, by forgetting that you were fasting, that will not break your fast. Going to the wudu case again, if you're rinsing your mouth out, for example, and water does go down your throat, that should break your fast. But if at that time you had totally forgotten that you were fasting, then the principle of forgetting will trump the principle of accident and your fast will not break. But these are just a few principles I'm just throwing around quickly before we run out of time. Illnesses, if a person gets extremely ill, whereby they're unable to just carry out their basic tasks throughout the day, they're bedbound, they can't move around, they can't go outside, they can't do things that they would normally do, and that requires them to take some sort of medication, then you will be exempted from fasting. And finally, in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, if you're a traveler, you do not have to fast. But again, here, one important point to remember, you need to be a traveler at the time of dawn. You need to be a traveler at the time of dawn. So for example, if you have a flight at 10 o'clock in the morning and you leave your house at 7 o'clock, dawn starts at 4 o'clock, for example. At that time, you were at home. You were not a traveler. So because you are not a traveler, you will have to keep your fast. However, if on that journey you became extremely tired and you needed to break your fast because you couldn't continue, then you will break your fast, but you will have to make up one after. We covered miswak and toothpaste. So if you just go back, miswak, toothpaste. No, miswak in itself is fine, but the additional toothpaste should not be used in Ramadan because it's the additional product that you're putting into your mouth. We've covered this, inhaling steam intentionally. So if you inhale it intentionally, it will break. If it's by accident or you happen to be in a steamy room, you're cooking, whatever, that won't break. Inhaling smoke intentionally will break your fast. Smoking breaks your fast. Rinsing your mouth in wudu, that won't break. If something went down by accident, we covered that will break. Feel free again to throw in your questions in the chats. I'm flying through, so I haven't had a look at it yet, but I will look at it now. Is there anything in the Zoom?
There's something in Q&A, Mufti Hilal.
Q&A said, Ustad, when your parents are making food for iftar and you smell it, will it break your fast? It depends how nice the food is, to be honest. No, smelling in itself, you can apply your principle there, right? So smelling in itself won't break your fast. A fragrance in itself won't break your fast. However, if you went and put your head over the pot, which is cooking, and all that steam, you go and inhale all of that steam, that will break your fast. If you're an adult and you need every 3 hours a day, you need it every 3 hours a day, how then would you make up for your fast? Sorry, could you elaborate on that question? If you're an adult and you need it every 3 hours, what are we referring to?
I think that might be inhaler, I think.
Okay. Yeah, so I had this question again yesterday, where someone asked me this question. So again, coming from the Hanafi perspective, the inhaler breaks your fast. So you need to try your best. If you can't avoid it, then you will take it. But you can make up. If you can make up those fasts in winter days, where the fasts are much, much shorter, then you can do that. Last resort for a person who is Yep, sorry, go on.
Yeah, sorry, I think you're going to answer the question now. That if just say if someone's asthma is so severe that they've got to be taking it every 3 hours.
So if a person will never ever be
Yeah.
able to fast, or they have a certain illness and they know they're never going to recover from that fast, then there's a compensation that you pay. So the Sadaqatul Fitr amount, which you give at the end of Ramadan, for each fast you have to pay one Sadaqatul Fitr amount. So that's in the event where a person cannot fast at all, or they have a illness which is going to keep going throughout their life, they're extremely sick, they have to take medication, they're unable to fast, then that's the option they give. It's called a fidya. It's a payment that you give in place of your fast. And inshallah, Allah will reward you for fasting, because He's the one that stipulated this option and replacement for a person.
Just one question, Mufti, I think just to build up on what either Fizza or Ibrahim are writing.
Yep.
That, so for instance, if it's an ongoing illness or something that, where they won't be able to keep another fast later on, despite it being winter season, does that mean, for instance, that they can still try and fast, continue with the inhaler and break their fast and pay fidya, or they don't have to fast at all? What if they still wanted to fast and be part of that experience?
So you can, of course, you can start your fast and you try and fast, and it's probably advisable to do that, because you never know. Inshallah, Allah might give you a good day and you're able to keep that fast. So you try your best to keep the fast, but if you feel now you're getting to a point where it's going to be dangerous for your health if you didn't take the inhaler, then you take your inhaler and you break your fast, and you'll only have to make up one fast in place of it. There is a concept of kafara. The kafara is not for any of these cases where you have to break your fast due to illness or traveling or anything like that. Kafara is when a person intentionally eats or drinks something which is nourishing, and they don't do it forgetfully, they don't do it by accident, they intentionally went and ate something during the month of Ramadan, then they have a kafara, which is quite cool. They have to fast for 60 days without having a break in between. Okay, does any other questions? Yes.
No, I think let's move on to that congregational prayer at home and a few questions that parents are having regarding maybe Tarawih, etc.
How to pray at home. So again, I will explain this from a Hanafi perspective. So praying at home, if it's father and son alone, then if the imam has to be ahead of everybody else, right? So this son, I would actually say he should stand a bit more behind. So you need to stand behind. Your feet should not be in line with the imam's feet. You should be standing a little bit behind at least, so that the heel of the imam, you haven't gone past the heel of the imam. You haven't gone past the imam. The imam should always be ahead. So if it's a father and son, they will pray like this, with the son standing a little bit behind. If that's just one person, you're praying with one person. If you're praying with more than one person, then you stand behind the imam like this, a whole row behind. If you have, even if it's a wife or a daughter, there's your daughter, Sheikh. So a wife or a daughter, then again, they will pray behind you like that. And if it's father and son, then the son will stand behind the father, and the wife and the daughter will stand behind the son. So again, in this case, I would tell the son to stand a little bit back. If you have everybody coming to join the congregation at home, father at the front, sons behind, and then wife and daughters behind them. And let's just have a look at this. So you can see in this case. So this is the ideal scenario: father, sons behind, and wives and daughters behind them. Tarawih, unfortunately, we can't go and join the Tarawih in the mosques because the mosques are closed. And as a replacement, everyone should try and pray the Taraweeh at home, Sunnah Mu'akkada, and recite and read as much as you can. Now, some people question that, what shall I read? I can't read the whole Quran completion by myself. If you can't read a completion by yourself, then you need to just read as much as you are able to. And I think this will be a good time for us to contemplate and reflect over how little we know of the Quran. And maybe this month of Ramadan can be a month where we dedicate ourselves to trying to memorize more of the Quran. So if we are ever in a situation like this, we actually have the ability to recite as much as we can off by heart. So it's a chance for us to memorize and learn. For the time being, as much as you have memorized, even if it's just Surah Ikhlas, Qul Huwallahu Ahad, Inna A'tinaka Al-Kawthar, you can recite these surahs in your Taraweeh. It wouldn't be, from the Hanafi perspective, it wouldn't be valid to hold a Quran and recite looking inside. And it would also not be valid to follow a Salat prayer online virtually. I did attend a seminar online. There was a lot of shuyukh from various backgrounds, and they had a poll, and I think over 80 or 90% agreed that the Salah virtually would not be valid. So it's a time to pray independently or at home with your family members if you can. Whatever you know from the Quran, you recite that, whatever surahs you know, and maybe this Ramadan situation that we find ourselves in can be an encouragement for us to actually appreciate the Hufad that have been leading, and for us to remind ourselves that we should be learning more of the Quran, connecting ourselves with the Quran and learning as much as we can of it. Any other questions, Sheikh?
Yeah, so just to one point. So I saw somewhere on the comments that you can listen to online recordings of imams. So can I just add a few things there? I think it's good. That's a good thing to listen to imams online.
Of course.
And I'm hoping that whoever the student who's asking that question, that you're just listening, you're not following the imam as though it's Taraweeh.
Yeah.
So that's, if Mufti can clarify that, look, if you put your laptop in front of you and even if there's a live recording of Taraweeh going on from your mosque or from the Haram or anywhere else, you can't actually follow your laptop.
That's right.
Okay,
That's
so
right.
Mufti, if you want to just clarify that.
As in Ramadan, I like to listen to the Haramain Salah as well, because they read extremely beautifully and they recite very nice and slowly and in a beautiful voice. So I like to listen to a lot of the Taraweeh that take place in the Haram as well, Haramain and Medina. However, you can't follow them from your own house, okay? Or anyone, even if it's your own local masjid, or if it's somebody else leading from a different area altogether. You can't put your phone or your laptop in front of you and follow them yourself. You'll actually have to pray your own independent prayer, whether that's with your family or independently. But yeah, I would encourage listening to as much Quran as we can and try and fill this month with as much Quran as we can, listening, reciting, reading translation. But when it comes to Taraweeh, then we have to stick to the rules, we have to stick to the framework and read from what we have memorized, inshallah ta'ala.
Brilliant. And absolutely. And I think it's important that in Ramadan, we physically do things for ourselves. So if that means picking up the Quran and trying to engage with the Quran, both reciting the Quran in its Arabic form, but at the same time reflecting over its meaning as much as we can as well. There were some other questions. I'm just trying to think. Yes, so Mufti Hilal, some other questions that came forward were, if we're praying at home, can we, how many rakats do we read? Can we do 20, more than that, 8? What's the deal? Especially when we have children involved, because we're focusing on children.
So again, from the Hanafi school, 20 rakats is the Sunnah Mu'akkada. Now, as much as you are able to, you try and fulfill all 20 rakats and you try and pray as much as you can. If for some reason you're unable to read all 20, then you try and make up as much as you can, as much as you're physically able to. Maybe many people won't be working. For example, doctors might be working. If somebody's had a really, really long, tiring shift and they've come home, they'll try and read as much as they can before they get some rest before their next day of work. So whether that's 4, whether that's 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, any even number, 20 is the max and 20 is the best to get the most reward. So try and read as much as you can. And if you're unable to, then read as much as you are physically able to. And try, it doesn't have to be in one go either. You can read 4, have a break, read another 4, have a break, read another 4, have a break, like that. It doesn't have to be 20 back to back if you feel like it's too difficult.
So Mufti Hilal, keeping in mind our younger students, What's
Yep.
the
Oh, yes.
minimum that they have to do? What's the minimum?
The
So is it
minimum I
like
would tell you
2
to do,
or 8 or
yeah,
what's the
read
minimum?
2 as a minimum. Worst case scenario, but
So
I
we're
think
looking
all
at
of you guys can do at least 4. I believe in you,
yeah.
for
Okay.
our students.
So inshallah, so what you're trying to say ultimately is, you know, when you're physically able to do up to 20, when you're not so physically able to at least do 2. So anything between
Yeah.
2
4.
and 20, anything between 2 and 20. And don't forget, after you've done your Taraweeh, so when you're doing Taraweeh, you do your Isha first, then how many ever rakats of Taraweeh that you're going to do, then you're going to do your Witr. So this is especially for mothers as well who normally stay at home, and our female students who normally stay at home. You know, Mufti, you can correct me if I'm wrong,
Yep.
that you pray your Isha first with the
Yep.
Jama'ah. Okay. Once you've done your Isha Fard, then you do your Sunnah. Then you do as many Taraweehs as you can perform. Okay. And then after your Taraweehs, then you do your Witr. So normally you would have done Isha, Sunnah, then Witr. But in Ramadan, you'll do your Isha first, then Sunnah, then Taraweeh, how many ever rakats that you're able to do. Then comes the Witr at the end. So just don't forget that order. Was there
And
anything else you wanted
yeah,
to
and
add?
also in Ramadan, you can do your witr in congregation as well. So if you've prayed your
Yes.
Isha and Taraweeh in congregation, you can also pray your witr salah in congregation.
Brilliant. So
I
remember,
know that was a bit rushed, but I just tried to fit in as much as we could within the last few.
Excellent, excellent. So I just want to emphasize one more time, because this question, and I'm only doing
Yep,
this because
yep,
this question came up a few times on our admin phone as well,
yep.
that you cannot follow Taraweeh
Yeah,
virtually on a laptop. And remember, as a family, it's much better when you do it as a family together, okay? And you're all physically there. So there is no chance, and it's not, and as Mufti said as well, it's not valid to follow the laptop when it comes to that, because you need to be in some form of congregation, and that's not a congregation. Yeah, because if you're following the imam is somewhere else and your family somewhere else, it's not really a collection, is it? It's not, you're not collectively there. So you've got to make sure that whatever you do at home as a family, inshallah. Okay.
but in the same place together.
Yes.
The concept is of a jama'ah, where you're praying together, and what constitutes a jama'ah. So virtually, unfortunately, though it does bring us together on occasions like this, it doesn't constitute a jama'ah for a prayer, for us to be praying together.
Absolutely. Any other questions for Mufti Hilal? Any other questions? And also, I think these virtual illustrations were very helpful as well, because most of us should be praying in Jama'ah at home. And it doesn't matter if you how many males you have, females, you know, you just need 2 people for Jama'ah. Okay. So these illustrations are very important for us Muslims. Any
Sorry,
other questions?
there's just some on the sound. There's just some on YouTube that have come up. Are there different
Sure.
views about where a wife should stand with the husband in prayer, no one else around? If she is standing slightly behind, is that permissible? Yeah, she can stand slightly behind. That's fine, depending on space. Ideally, like a row behind, or if not, then as long as she's behind the imam, that is fine. Philosopher MMA, is it true that the Sahaba prayed Taraweeh up to 36 rakats? I'm not sure about the companions, but that is a position within the Maliki school. But I would have to have a look at where they base that on. They do have the position of reading more than 20 rakats. It's 30, I'm not sure if it's 36, but it's around that number. Can a mother read her entire salah out loud to teach her daughters how to pray? Yeah, again, at home, nobody else around. There's no harm in a woman reading her salah out loud. Chewing gum break in the Shafi perspective. Unfortunately, I haven't studied the Shafi school, so I have absolutely no knowledge and awareness about this. You would need to contact a Shafi scholar. I don't want to go beyond my scope.
Would it break in the Hanafi perspective, just for those who are listening?
Chewing gum. Well, chewing gum is going to have, I would say there are certain liquids that are going to be coming out of that gum, which you're ultimately going to be swallowing. So yeah, I would say it would.
Definitely, yeah, I definitely think so. There's a question that's just come from Salma, just right now at the bottom.
Where does the daughter stand when she's praying with her father? So again, if it's just daughter and father, let's see if I can just pick that up here. So just stand behind, either totally behind like this. If not, then she'll stand at least anywhere behind the imam. That would be sufficient. Anyone praying should be behind the imam, and the order would be, if there's loads of people, imam, then the boys, and then the women right behind them. If it's just a father and daughter, then the daughter stands just behind.
Question coming in from Shahana. For iftar, do we open our fast at the beginning or end of Maghrib Adhan?
Well, the Maghrib Adhan will only be given if the sun has set. So that means as soon as the Maghrib Adhan, as soon as you hear it, you can start breaking your fast.
What about Mufti? There's some mosques that wait a few minutes after sunset to do the Adhan. So can, if
you break your fast at sunset. Now, the thing is, the sunset on Google, so if you write sunset in Google, it'll actually give you a time. Now, the thing is, wherever you are in London, it's going to give you the exact same time, even if it's round, if you're just outside London, it'll probably still give you the same time. So you have to be careful with things like using Google, because it'll give you like an average. There are certain concepts of refraction, etc., with light bending, and when you see the sun setting and all of that. So Google gives you an average time. I would ideally say use the sunset time on your mosque timetables. You can add a couple of minutes as a caution. Some add quite a lot. You don't need to add 10, 15 minutes as a caution. Even in one hadith, the Prophet ﷺ encouraged the fast to be broken as quickly as possible as well. So we just need to be sure that the sun has set using the timetables that the mosques provide, and use that as a basis. Normally when they give adhan, that would be like the indicator of when to break your fast. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, what if we were to, maybe follow the Greenwich, planetarium, their sunset times, because that's going to be pretty accurate.
Yeah, but I think the thing is, it'll be one time, isn't it? That they
Sorry?
use. They use one time as like an average for different areas together. So
Right.
so that's why we normally add a couple of minutes as a caution.
Sure.
Depending on where your exact location is, it might vary slightly, even though slightly, but just as a caution. Then
when you say slightly, when you say slightly, is that in seconds or minutes?
About 3 to 5 minutes.
Right. So do you think it might be a good idea to look at the sunset time, add on 2-3 minutes?
Yeah. So last couple of days I've been looking at sunset time, and just say it says 8:13 today. So normally the mosque would say something like 8:15, for example, or 8:16.
I've just checked the planetarium one, and it says 8:12.
8:12, yeah. That's
so
why I would be.
So there's always going to be that little bit of difference, yeah.
So if you just have a look at the mosque, I think the mosque says how much? What today? Have a look. So one mosque near me is saying 8:16. So that's 3 minutes. So I would use like that 3-minute addition just as a safety measure. It's not too much, especially when you fasted for about 15, 16 hours. Absolutely. You don't need to go on for 10 minutes. You don't need to wait for that long.
And also, just to add that, the mosque, they've taken that extra consideration. So to answer Shahana's question, it's not really to do with the adhan, it's more to do with the sunset time. And if you can just look at whichever mosque you're following, and you take as your authority, just look at the sunset time on there, and that's when you can break your fast. Because I don't think there may be some mosques that are not doing adhan during the lockdown period. So just look at the sunset time and go for that. There's a couple of questions come in, Mufti, if I can just say them out. So there's one from Ali Reza. Is there any extra benefit for tahajjud prayer in first 10 day of Ramadan? So I'm guessing that's the tahajjud prayer.
Tahajjud prayer.
First tahajjud, is it tahajjud? I think, yeah.
Tahajjud, yeah. I've not come up with any specific additional benefit beyond the already existing numerous benefits to tahajjud prayer in the first 10 days specifically.
Yeah, absolutely. And then plus during Ramadan is added value anyway, but nothing to do with the first 10. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I've not come across anything specific to the first 10. I could be wrong. I personally haven't come across anything specific to the first 10 days. Again, tahajjud, Ramadan is a time to increase as much of these nawafil as much as we can, these optional prayers.
Another question coming in from Shahana is, can husband and wife stand next to each other in prayer, or are they staggered too?
Yeah, so standing slightly behind the imam. Standing slightly behind the imam. In the Hanafi school, if the wife was to stand directly next to the imam, his salah would actually break. So that won't be very helpful. So she needs to be slightly behind, if not ideally like a row behind. Now, not standing next to each other.
Now, before Ustada Shahana asks her next question, which I'm just thinking might be in my mind, what shall I do with all the prayers that I've read before standing next to my husband? What happens with those?
Oh, that is interesting. Which prayers are these?
Farad. with
World
Jama'ah.
Quiz. For that, I would say to you, zamzamacademy.com, and you submit that question in there, and you'll get a proper write-up, inshallah ta'ala.
Yep, good. Another question from from Shayla and Nadeem. If there is a family of 6, a father, mother, 2 sons, and 2 daughters, what is the positioning on the prayer mat? That sounds like one of those trick questions.
Father, mother, 2 sons, and 2 daughters. Yeah,
That's
so
an easy one. That's a very easy one.
it's what we covered, right?
Yeah.
Picture. Father, Imam at the front, sons behind, and the wives and daughters right at the back.
Yep. That's pretty easy. Pretty cool. Any more questions coming in? Let's just have a quick look on Zoom because we are, we're well over time. So I think we'll just give it another 5 minutes maximum, Sheikh, to take any questions. And then we will stop because we've got another session straight after this that we have to hold for our Scouts group, which everyone's welcome to as well. Any other questions? Any other questions? Maybe from Ustad Shahana, or are you fasting tomorrow, Ustad? I think everyone will be fasting tomorrow, but if your question was
everyone's going to be fasting tomorrow, yeah.
So I think Mufti Hilal, you are fasting today, right?
I am fasting right now, yes.
Yep. So in this case, Mufti Hilal is already fasting today. He did his Taraweeh yesterday. I will inshallah be starting Taraweeh tonight and fasting tomorrow. So like I said, some of us have already started, some of us will be starting. So for both of these groups, Ramadan Kareem, may Allah make it easy. May we grow in this month, regardless of when we start or when we finish. The most important meaty part is what we do in between. So I can see many students are very excited about this, but inshallah, it's there to really, really help us grow spiritually, inshallah. Any other questions before we start wrapping up, because we are over time? Jazakallah Mufti for your extra time today.
No worries.
And especially for contextualizing fasting for us, because it's relevant. I think what we could do next week as well, maybe we could do something around, we can continue this lesson around Ramadan.
Yep.
Because everyone's going to have spent over a week during Ramadan. They may have some extra questions. So just to let students who are joining us and parents, once you've started Ramadan, you'll have a week. Write down any questions you have regarding Ramadan or fasting or anything else. And inshallah, next week we will continue with the lesson on the fiqh of fasting and Ramadan, or anything associated with Ramadan. That way you will be learning, and your learning will be experiential learning, which you will not forget, inshallah. I think the questions have stopped, Mufti Hilal, and it's 6:25. Good time to stop our session, inshallah.
Yep, inshallah. Yep,
if everyone can just before we finish.
Yep, just remember us in your du'as, especially during this month of Ramadan.
Ameen, ameen. And may Allah give us sincerity, inshallah, and do this for His sake and His cause, so that it will really benefit us in the hereafter. Jazakallahu khairan. Subhanallah bihamdihi. Subhanakallahumma bihamdika. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. See you all next week.